Good evening and welcome. Let's start with our top story. The countdown for the first ever Quad Summit has begun. The leaders of the Quad nations will assemble for a virtual summit on Friday. US President Joe Biden, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will all come together for the first time to discuss challenges and opportunities in the Indo-Pacific. The world will watch, but China will be watching more closely than others. All four Quad nations have been facing heightened tensions with China. There is an ongoing trade war with the US, a diplomatic war with Australia, a border conflict with India, and multiple territorial disputes with Japan. The first ever leader-level Quad summit is seen as a strategic meet over the Indo-Pacific influence. The United States is pursuing allies to push back against China. As per the agenda revealed by the White House, the leaders will discuss ways to maintain a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. They will exchange views on challenges such as resilient supply chains, maritime security and critical technology. And they will look for ways to collaborate in providing safe and affordable vaccines in the Indo-Pacific region. Preparations have begun. Now, WION will get you all the latest updates running up to the first ever Quad Summit on Friday.
4 leaders, 4 democracies, 1 platform, and a common foe. The countdown has begun. The world will watch. As the first ever Quad Summit takes place this Friday.
What will each leader bring to the table? What message will this summit send to China, and what opportunities will it create?
The countdown for this first ever Quad Summit has begun. The leaders of the Quad nation will be assembling on Friday for the virtual summit. Now, the leaders include US President Joe Biden, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, we're expecting them to all come together for the first time to discuss both opportunities and the challenges faced in the Indo-Pacific region. The world will be watching. At this time, all 4 of the Quad nations have been facing heightened tensions with China. There is currently an ongoing trade war with the US. There is a border conflict with India, a diplomatic war with Australia, and there have been multiple territorial disputes with Japan. Now, this is going to be the first ever leader-level Quad summit, and it is seen as a strategic meet, especially at this time, over the Indo-Pacific influence. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Susan Tehrani from New York. Good evening to you, Susan. Thank you for being with us. Now, how is the administration geared up for the all-important Quad meeting tomorrow when Biden will be interacting with the leaders of the group of countries for the first time?
Alison, as you mentioned, the White House is gearing up for this summit because of the great importance it has attached to combating China's hostile policies. We'll see how the major policies will go through in the weeks to come as high-ranking Chinese and U.S. officials are due to meet in Alaska, and the U.S. is expected to press China on that. But the highlights really of this meeting will be to see and witness Joe Biden, being only 2 months in office, his push for a united stance against China. And it's also a very crucial moment for Joe Biden himself and the Biden administration to really crystallize what their policy is moving forward. And it crystallizes his administration's commitment and the United States' commitment in general to the Indo-Pacific region, and a call for cooperation and multilateralism in this regard. I know we heard a lot about that on the campaign trail, that we need a united stance to combat China. And I think a lot of relationships in past years generally have been bilateral, so it'll be interesting moving forward how this administration is going to try to tap into these shared goals. And it's also a sign that, you know, his first international summit on the Quad, that it is an administration priority, really, as the U.S. Secretary of State was on Capitol Hill yesterday. He mentioned that China is the biggest geopolitical threat, not only facing the United States, but that region as well, considering the fact that on the national security front, leaders are hoping to really get into the nitty-gritty, because at the end of the day, the devil is in the detail, and it will be geared towards Beijing's hostile behavior and maritime behavior, notably as Chinese coast guards are entering Japan's territorial waters. They've already done that, and there is rising concern for conflict in East and South China Sea. So a notable event, as you mentioned, the world will be watching, and China will be watching as well, as you mentioned, very closely.
Absolutely. Now, Susan, we know that tonight President Biden will be addressing the nation to mark the lockdown anniversary in the first major primetime address. Do you think that the sentiments to tackle China for its, firstly, perhaps handling of the virus, its role in climate crisis, and also the geostrategic aggression in this Indo-Pacific region would be stronger when the president attends the Quad meeting?
Meeting is really significant in that regard, because these are leaders that are meeting in the framework of, you know, the highest position of government before a trip from the U.S. Secretary of State and the U.S. Secretary of Defense to the Indo-Pacific region. We know that they'll be visiting very shortly Japan, South Korea, and their last leg of their trip to India. So this will really provide the framework for that, and we'll see how the United States will press on China's hostilities and human rights issues, as the Secretary of State has noted with his counterpart and other security officials in Anchorage, Alaska. Regarding the Biden national address, what we know right now from the White House is that he will talk about the sacrifices of the American people, those sacrifices that they have made through the 12 months. He will also mention that this is the greatest operational challenge the United States has ever met, and he will talk about the next steps in bringing the virus under control. And most important for him is he is going to talk about this $1.9 billion relief bill that was passed. You know, we know that the President Biden will be taking a COVID tour to talk about this bill next week. He's going to be in Pennsylvania. Vice President Harris is going to be in Denver, Central America, central regions of the United States, and then on the West Coast, Joe Biden will be taking up states like Nevada to really show the American people that this bill is important to them. And another issue that the United States is having concerns with right now is the majority of Americans are getting conflicting reports from the CDC and the Biden administration on whether or not to take the vaccine. So, you know, these are the issues that I think the confidence in vaccine is a priority, and I think that he's going to make mention in that address tonight. But you're absolutely right. It's going to be very connected. It's on the eve of the Quad meeting, and there is, I mean, the elephant in the room. There is no denying that China was responsible for this virus, and it brought the United States. And I do want to mention that today is the anniversary, the first day that we got our first COVID death here in New York City one year ago.
Susan, thank you very much for bringing us that report. A sad day indeed. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.